Hello, hello, or good evening, or day, depending where you are. It's Riikka Kovasin here with a ATC live. Let me just check that something is happening, let's say. Yeah, I can see myself. Sorry. Then just let's hope that you can hear me as well. The lighting is a little bit, well, dark, but unfortunately it's pitch black outside, so it is what it is. Let me add the link to the blog post here to the comments if you want to check the materials, and I'll also share this video to the event group. So here we go, those are done. Okay, housekeeping done. So we are ready to go in 4 minutes. If you have any questions during the live, just write them to the comments and I'll answer them either during the live or then afterwards if I miss anything. And these are the things I'm recreating today. Little ATCs with 3 techniques using a mica powder. So that's kind of an unusual color scheme for my project because I'm normally drawn to blues and greens rather than reds and oranges, but this time I thought that autumn needed the warmer colors, and thus I picked up these colors this time. Of course you could do the same thing with a cooler color palette using blues. Now that there's still a couple of minutes, let me just say a few words in Finnish, my native tongue, and then go back to English. Elikkä siis moikka moi! Niin kuin yleensäkin, niin jos tulee kysyttävää, niin voi myös suomeksi kirjoittaa kysymykset, kommentit. Katselen niitä sitten tässä liven aikana ja vastailen, tai sitten liven jälkeen, mikäli menee multa tässä ohi. Mutta pääasiallisesti siis hölpöttelen englantia tällä kertaa. Hi Johanna! So, red and pink with touch of orange this time. I'm hoping the light is okay-ish. That's not the best, but I'm thinking you can still see the project. But that we still have a little bit time. Let me think where the camera is and show you a little bit of the detail. Probably you will be able to tell just by looking, perhaps, the 3 techniques with the mica powder if I show you, especially that it's this color. But we'll go through them in a couple of minutes. There's the dimensional paste that's colored with mica. Then there's stamping with it, and then there's also some mica in the background. And if you would like to have any of these cards, then just throw me a message and I'm really happy to either swap or then just send you one of these cards. Because, well, I do ATCs all the time, so I'm really happy to send them forward. The live, or the project, I named it A Cup of Warmth, because of the kind of sweater weather. You need a little bit something to warm up during the autumn days. But hey, it's 8 o'clock here in Finland, so let's get started. So again, hi everybody, thank you for joining. It's Riikka Kovasin from Finland here, and I'm doing some ATCs. Let's move these aside, hopefully, so that they are still a little bit visible, so you know what I'm doing. And then start with a blank piece of paper. I actually realized while gathering the supplies that I forgot this lovely medium from the list, but this is heavy gesso white. You could use clear as well. Sorry, both go. It's just to add a prime layer to the paper, and you can do even without it. It just makes things a little bit easier when we start adding colorants on top, so we don't have to hurry and kind of be scared that they will be then soaked into the paper. I'm using a brayer to apply the gesso. This was something I picked up from Creative Jumpstart, actually, from Iris. I thought that it was just an excellent way of applying the gesso or paint in a bigger surface. I do use a brayer when I'm doing gel printing, but not as kind of the first layer. Hey Bente! Hey Asta! Moi Päivi! So that was that easy, because with a brush it takes a little bit longer, and also the brayer with the heavy gesso gives a lovely texture to the cardstock. So that's the first layer. Let me quickly dry this. Here we go. Dry enough for the next layer to adding some colorants. Like I said earlier, if you have any questions, jos on jotain kysymyksiä, niin ei muuta kuin kirjoittamaan. Just write them there. Now I'm adding the mica powder. Just some blobs of it. This is from the Vintage Rose set, if I remember correctly. This lovely, well, vintage rose styled color. But of course you could use any color, any mica in this. The Finnabair mica powders don't have any kind of binding agent in them, so it's just the mineral. So you need something to adhere the powder to the base. And this first technique is creating the base, and I'm mixing the mica powder with the acrylics. That kind of gives it the binding agent then. Of course, these liquid acrylics are pigmented, so it will change the color of the powder, but it's okay. Päivi kysyi, mitä jauhe oli, niin jauhe oli ihan siis Mica-pulveria. Mica is a mineral, the same stuff you have in your fancy eyeshadows. I'm just dabbing some of it off because it was too colorful. And now that the surface is still a little bit wet, I want a little bit more shine. So I'm just sprinkling the powder on top. This one is something like mica powders that are widely used in cosmetics, in laundry detergents. But of course they are different grades. This is kind of art grade, so don't use this for your makeup. There's also these cosmetic grade versions. Not pretty looking yet, but we'll get there. Let's just dry this a little bit. Now it looks more like an expressive painting or something. I'm not sure if you can... No. Not sure the camera picks up, but there is some sheen in the background. Not as much as in the height, like the dimensional paste, because there's just the mica, and here we have it mixed with other colorant, but there is some little shine to it anyway. Then this is not looking very pretty, as you can see, but we can change that by some stamping, for example, or adding another layer, or using different colors. Of course, there's a million ways, but you have to start someplace. But I thought that these are kind of for the autumn, so sweater weather, and I was thinking that this knit styled print would look nice on these cards. I think this one is called the stamp basket, but I see it as a kind of a jumper. So I'm just using black ink. Of course, if you find this color combo like too contrasting, you could use red or orange or pink, something that's more to the same colors that are already present in the background. But I wanted the knit to be really visible, so that's why I, oopsie daisy, chose the black ink. It's kind of my go-to. Let's add, just in case I want to use this redder part. What? I had the same problem yesterday at work. Everything was falling. So it seems that it's continuing today. Now that one is done. No need to close that, because I did want to add a little bit of another texture to it. This kind of script stamp is one of my favorites. I use it so often, so I kind of layer two prints together. There's the knitwear and then some text, and both with the black, so they kind of blend in together. Then we need to cut this one and this one to ATC size. Hi Brian! Brian says that he is loving the colors. Yeah, these are really autumnally, like vibrant versions. They are really unusual for me, so I'm a little bit torn, to be honest, with the ready cards even. That do I like them or don't I? And I'm thinking it's the color scheme, because I tend to usually go with something more blue and teal and green than this vibrant reds. So ATCs are 2.5 by 3.5 inches, and I'm cutting this 2 inches and 1/4, so we get that black kind of frame to them. Here I'm really liking that one, so maybe I'll trim just a little bit from the edge and then take that 2 1/4. And don't throw away these. They are perfect material for journaling, for example. I usually, or let's say I try not to save everything, because otherwise I just couldn't cope with the amount of stuff that's just piling. But when I'm crafting, I'm usually then kind of drawing inspiration of what I have at hand. So I might use then the little parts in another project as a part of a background collage or something. On this side it's 3 1/4. Again, a little short of the ATC size, just to get that frame around. And then these 2.5 by 3.5. Maybe I should have done it the other way around, so I could have got everything. It gets too much when you save too much. Yeah, that's so true. I usually try not to save like those postal stamp sized bits, just to have some kind of rule. But those bits, I get those much, because when I'm starting a new project, whether it being a journal or ATC, I then often start with an A4 or at least A5 sized white piece of cardstock, and then decorate that whole piece, and I might only use just a couple of ATC sized bits, so there's much leftovers for our journaling. The paper is still a little bit wet, so let's see how this goes. I'm risking some tears, but on the other hand, it doesn't matter, because I'm going for a grungy edge anyway. Just using my scissors to fray the edge a little, kind of mimic soft material, let's say. So even though this is paper, I'm not using that straight cut edge, but fraying, distressing it a little to make it more fabric-like in that sense. Paper is its most brittle when it's wet. So if you're not wanting a total distressed look, then let the paper or dry it thoroughly before distressing. Then where's my double-sided tape? Here it is. Let's mount these. I'm just using double-sided tape to add the layers together. And then I'm adding a hand-drawn stitch line to the edges. If this weren't a Facebook Live, I might even use my sewing machine for that, to add a little bit contrasting texture, let's say, a little dimensional thing. But as I can't do that when I'm doing a live, then it's just hand drawn. The other option, of course, would be hand stitch it like I have in the felt, but again, not happening during the live because that would take way too much time to just add the stitch lines. Of course, it would go so nicely with the overall look, but not today. Almost done with the layering. I'm not sure about you, but to me these look already so much better than the first what we had going with just the paints. And I like this, for example, that there's the kind of lines peeking through from the brush, and here the place where I dabbed some of the colorant off. So it makes it interesting, even though the stamping is not perfect and the whole layer is not kind of colored from edge to edge. In my book, that's actually even better that way. But again, it's a question of personal preference. So if you want to color the whole thing, of course you can. If you want a perfect stamping, then maybe a stamping tool might be better to really get a good crisp image throughout. Or you could even stamp the pieces after cutting, so then you know that the pattern will be nice in each card. But like I said, I really like the look of these, that they are a little haphazard. To my eye, they look more interesting than a perfect background stamped and colored. So we have the backgrounds. Now let's move on to another mica use. Probably something you've already seen, but there's always new people who maybe haven't seen it or thought about this use. Because you can make your own dimensional paste quite easily. Just pick a dimensional paste that's either, well, translucent, transparent, or then has some kind of pigment, but just remember that it alters the look. I could use also modeling paste as the base, but I'm using 3D gel, which dries clear, even though it looks white right now, so that only has the kind of color of the mica then. So I'm just adding mica powder to the 3D gel. It will look a pink tone now, because the gel is still, no, don't go there, gel is still white, but after drying it will be just this lovely kind of jewel effect tone. Just mix it in. If you would use modeling paste, that would then end up being this pinkish tone, and also the white pigment in the modeling paste would result that it's not as jewel kind of glossy, shiny. Also the same problem if you use a matte 3D gel, for example, because then it doesn't show the lovely shine of the mica. Okay, let's see. Hi Jutta! Thank you! Brian says that perfect. What's that sound boring? Yeah. That's how I feel as well. If it's too perfect, there's kind of not these little details for I to pick and explore. So I'm using this, I think this was called Passiflora or something in that thereabouts, stencil from Finnabair collection with this self-made paste. Like I said, now it looks kind of dull and more pinkish than it will be after drying. This is exactly the same stuff that I used in the sample cards. And there, let me try, hopefully it will go somewhere near the camera. There we go, a bit better. So there it has this lovely kind of vintage rose styled color. I picked up this stencil because it reminded me of embroidery and kind of needlework patterns. No flowers, at least here in Finland at this time of year, but even more flowers in the jumpers and like sweaters we are getting to use. So I'm just applying the paste through the stencil, getting this lovely dimensional effect. And like with so many mediums, as it's acrylic based, I'm just dropping the stencil to a bucket of water and we'll clean it afterwards thoroughly. And probably I will use that leftover paste to something this night. Then let's add these in. These are just pieces of thick craft felt cut in haphazardous, let's say, square type shapes. And while the paste is still wet, I'm adding these in because then also the pattern will adhere the little felt piece in place, just to make sure I'm adding a little bit of craft glue underneath as well. One more. I used black thread here, kind of mimicking the edge that I have in the cards, and also what I just draw in a little bit earlier. So again, looking quite a lot better than the first reaction. You might have heard earlier that there's kind of this ugly face to each project. So you just have to kind of close your eyes and move from it. Kind of be a little bit thick-headed and steer through it. So now we have two techniques with the mica. Again, needing something for it to be bound to the surface or the base. So I was first using the liquid acrylics in the first layer, just a teeny tiny bit of shine there, not too much, and then a more shiny layer with the dimensional paste, and now stamping. So I have this a bit older Finnabair stamp of a cup, and I'm using watermark ink with it, stamping the motif. Let's do 3 immediately, or maybe even 4. if I mess something up. Always good to have a spare one. Because if it doesn't end up being in these cards, I might then do another card or an art journal page or something. So it's handy to have a little bit extra. Let's do one row more because there's room. So as you probably know, watermark ink or embossing ink is kind of sticky, almost adhesive in a way. So that's where the mica powder now will stick. Hey Anna! Oh, now you can see me. Let me move these a little bit further up. Of course the paste is still wet, so I can put them on top of each other. And again, let's sprinkle. Probably that one, that's enough. Let's see. And now, hey Heidi! Now I need a really soft brush, a clean one, to apply the mica to the stamped images. And that's clean. Let's see if the camera is picking this up. Yeah, it is. Let me move those extra bits aside. So, where the embossing ink is sticky, mica powder will stick, and then the rest of it will it will stain the paper a little more in these cases, but here a little bit less. But still, the image is more visible and it has this lovely shine from the mica. So let me just cut these loose. If you're just joining, we are making some autumn ATCs in, well, not so traditional color for me, because I'm using reds instead of blues and greens or even purples. And I'm using mica powder 3 ways. This was the 3rd one. So, as the mica powders from the Finnabair line are just mica, like the mineral, then you need some kind of binding agent to them. And in these cards, the first one was liquid acrylics, then the second one, the 3D gel, like a heavy body gel medium, and now the watermark ink. Thank you, Maria. Of course, if the mica powder is really kind of opal looking, then white might not be a good surface, but then try black. For example, black cardstock with snowflake motif and then kind of silvery or those pearly white mica powders on top might be a really great look. Doesn't have to be a pink teacup. Then before mounting, as you can see, there's a teeny tiny detail that's missing, and that's from the stamped parts. Let's see if I can make them from that scratch. So, I'm a tea drinker. even though Finns are really heavy on the coffee, I never kind of learned to drink coffee, let's say. I tried during studying, but it wasn't for me. But black tea, especially Earl Grey, is something I love. So of course I thought that these are teacups and not coffee mugs. So then we need a little tea bag. Or actually the bag is in the cup, so we need the label to kind of indicate that there's tea. So for the little tags, I'm actually using one of the knits, cutting them loose and mounting them with thread, kind of following the idea of these cards that have stitching and kind of textile idea going on already. So just threading through the cup and then through the little tea bag label. Come on. And then I need to secure this with a knot. Come on. Totally silent now, but need to focus. And then let's cut it. And now we can mount the little cup in place. Just adding some glue to the back to secure the thread also in there. Whoops. What I said earlier about dropping things, it's now happening again. Hopefully that's not a continuous situation. So here we go. Cup with a little tea bag. Then the same with these two. I'm now continuing, but if you don't want me to kind of see me doing that, then there's nothing, no more techniques to come, let's say, just finishing these cards. But again, if you would like to have any of the cards, please just message me or throw me an email. I'm really happy to just post one for you wherever in the world that the post is now delivering, let's say. So again, threading the cup first, kind of from the rim, so it looks a little bit like it would be coming from the cup, that there would be a tea bag. Not that tea bags usually have black twine in them, but white. But I went with the kind of continued with the color scheme I already had going with the black thread. There we go. I'm deliberately leaving a little bit of end to there, so it's kind of a little design element. And to me the fun part is that the little label is then kind of hanging and moving about, so I won't glue the little tag nor the twine or string anyway. It's the idea that it's a little kind of interaction thingy. Then the third one. first poking a hole through so I know where to put the needle. Moikka Mari! Viimeisiä viedään täällä itse asiassa. And then drew the little tea bag, or actually again the little label. The tea bag would be in the other end of this rope. Kunhan saan tämän kortin tehtyä, niin mä voin vielä kerrata, että mitä tuli tehtyä. After mounting this, I can then go again through what we did. These are really easy peasy cards, but still 3 different use for mica powder. I bet this stamping version might not be the one you have seen a lot. I might be totally wrong, but maybe something new. Here we go. So let's put, for example, these cards now up that I just finished, and then the sample ones below. A whole set of 6 cards with a cup of warmth theme. So let's take one. I'll first go through it in English and then quickly also in Finnish. Let me first see that if I'm in the camera. No, thereabouts. Yeah, okay. So the first thing we did was to use mica powder with liquid acrylic. So we added gesso to the cardstock so it doesn't absorb the paint immediately. Then added some mica on top and used the liquid acrylics kind of like a watercolor in a way, letting them mix with the mica. So there's just a little bit of shine, not that much. And then stamping on top, and then on top this dimensional paste by mixing mica with 3D gel gloss version, so we get this lovely pearly effect. On top a little piece of felt, and then stamped image with a watermark ink, and then mica on top, so it's really shiny, that stamped cup. Ja sitten suomeksi, eli ensin gessoa pohjalle, niin että noin varit ei suoraan imeydy siihen, ja sitten päälle noita liquid acrylic, eli siis tämmöisiä niin kuin akryylimusteita periaatteessa mica powderin kanssa, niin siihen tulee vaan ihan pieni määrä sitä hohdetta, ei paljon. Sitten tehtiin tollanen, niin ja siis sitten leimailtiin. Sitten päälle tollanen kohopasta, eli 3D-geeliä, gloss, eli kiiltävää versiota, niin tulee tämmönen helmiäis lopputulos siitä. Ja sitten vaan sabluunan läpi vähän huopaa, ja sitten tää on tosiaan vesileimamusteella, ja sitten mikas jauhetta siihen päälle, niin tulee tollanen kiiltävä kuvio. Although this one is with the watermark ink and it's kind of sticky, if I rub this extensively, I will get everything off. But again, it's not something I'm worried about. If it would be a card that's kind of meant to be looked at a great many times, then maybe adding some kind of layer on top or making sure that there's acetate on top or something, that might do. But in these kind of crafts, it's okay if some residue is still in your fingers, but you can still see the motif. So do you have any questions? Thank you, Maria. Kiitos Päivi, kiitos Mari. Now there's the time gap. I wait for a little while if you have any questions. If not, this was a little bit faster live than usual, partly because I did the hand sewing beforehand, otherwise I would still be sewing. Not that these have to be perfect, but hand sewing takes a little bit of time. I'm thinking there's no questions. If there is afterwards, if you're now watching the recording, for example, just add a comment here. I'm trying to watch through them in the coming week. If it seems that I'm missing it, then of course you can always tag me to get my attention or just message me. But again, if you would like to have any of the cards, just let me know and I'll post then one for you. The bottom line is already ready to go as they are the sample ones and they're dried. The top line needs a little bit drying time because of the dimensional paste. That's already you can start seeing the change. It's not as kind of pinkish and dull anymore, but going more to this direction, a lovely jewel kind of tone. So, have a great weekend. Thank you so much for coming, and I will be seeing you next month with another live. Kiitoksia kaikille kun tulitte. Jos on kysymyksiä, niin ei muuta kuin jättäkää niitä vaan tähän tai laittakaa viestillä tulemaan. Ja ihanaa viikonloppua. Ja nähdäänhän taas. Thank you. Bye.